This is contributor Hugo Dante, who's up late with me on the Final Five. Welcome to the show, Hugo.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you here tonight. First timer. Look, I know that this has happened. It's been weeks, and we've seen little surges in GameStop and maybe AMC to some extent. But let's be honest. It's not so much just the individual investors, but the idea of short selling these stocks. And for people who are maybe newbies to the stock market, take us through how this all really played out.
Yeah, so what's really interesting about what happened with GameStop is all of the price movement and everything that happened in the market really had a lot less to do with the fundamentals, although that was at the origin of all of the Reddit boards and everything else where they were all saying that GameStop is ripe for a turnaround. Mm-hmm. What really led to all of the really crazy volatility that we had was you had something very unique happen where you had retail investors really exploit a mechanism of the financial markets where they sort of coordinated efforts via chat boards on Reddit to try to drive the price up to bring to peril the positions of short sellers. So one of my focuses was with the recent article that I put in The Hill was to try to explain to people what the mechanism is behind short sellers. So short sellers tend to be a very unpopular group, but they have a very important role in financial markets, right? So the act of shorting a stock is if you believe that a stock is overvalued or you believe that perhaps a company is overstating something on its financial statements, mm-hmm. then what you will do is you'll actually go out, you'll borrow that stock, and then you'll sell it with the expectation that you'll be able to buy it back at a future date at a lower price. And then you'll profit off like arbitraging the price difference between that stock. So short sellers tend to be unpopular because attached to this decision, they tend to make very public their position. And they do this in a way that's very, very public and very colorful. So like they have narrative. So one of the studies that's cited that I mentioned in the article actually points to the rhetoric that short sellers use. And it's something that's very important to them because when they put out these disclosures and they say, I have a short position on this stock, there has to be some credibility behind it. So part of it involves some like really colorful rhetoric where they'll say, oh, this is the end of the world. The stock is going to come down. But then they also have to point to fundamentals. So they short sellers invest a lot of time and effort and research into the financial statements of companies. So this is where their very important role in financial markets comes to play, right? So like short sellers have an incentive to be sort of the watchdogs of financial markets, and especially when we're in a circumstance like what we are now, where financial markets are skyrocketing. Right. Everyone is saying, like, you'll see Dave Portnoy on the news saying stocks only go up. This is a wild, wild time. And everyone is really optimistic, but what you also have is this general spirit tends to lift a lot of companies, and you'll have a lot more speculative interest. And what short sellers tend to do is the mechanism itself tends to protect investors, because what short sellers will do, they'll do this like really careful analysis. They'll see what's going on. They'll say, this price isn't justified. And then they'll put out this very colorful rhetoric. And what it'll do is it'll drive the price. And if you're the CEO of this company and you see your stock price going down, you might not like it. But if you're in the circumstance, like also cited in studies commonly find, it's that short sellers tend to find problems in companies' financial reporting years before regulators or auditors actually spot it.
Hugo, take a breath here for a second.
Oh, sorry. I'm super excited about
this. And that's the thing. That's why I love it, because I'm sitting here listening to you talk about this, and it's fascinating because, there was so much talk about it, and on a granular level, people were looking at this as just GameStop, a bad bet, and it paid off for so many investors. And believe it or not, we're running short on time here. But as we look ahead, what do you think is the primary lesson that we all picked up on what went down, and will we see something like this happen again down the road?
So, especially as investors get more online, you're going to start seeing some pressure, especially on some of the mechanisms that are in the market. So one of the things that we should not lose sight of is that it's important to have mechanisms in financial markets for stocks to go up and down. It's all part of the price discovery process, right? So we shouldn't always want investors to always be optimistic on every company. We want to have accurate understandings of the values of companies. And it's always important not to pin the blame when there's a period of high volatility like we saw on GameStop on one specific market actor. So it's very important to recognize that every side of the market works and that there are incentives in the market to keep people honest. And in some circumstances, when short sellers are wrong and the price goes way up, they lose money. So there's a punishment to being wrong as well, just as there's a benefit to being right. I
want everybody out there to watch Hugo Dante and get excited about something in your life and come on the show and talk about it. Hugo, I'm out of time, my friend, but thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
When it comes to financial markets, my favorite thing.
I can tell. The Final Five comes back after the break.